turn it over to Lizzie.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
Okay, so in case you've been living, underground or somewhere, purposely putting shit in your ear and you haven't been paying attention, there's a lot going on in the world, particularly with Russia and Ukraine. They are in the middle of a war. Russia invaded Ukraine, and there's a lot of violence going on. And what people have really been concerned about is getting citizens or people living in Ukraine out to safety, including Americans. So on Friday, the State Department issued an official warning telling all Americans, regardless of what you're doing there, to get out. But then, right after that announcement came, we got this story about WNBA star, women's national team basketball star, Brittney Griner, being arrested in Russia at the airport for carrying what they allege was hashish oil in her baggage trying to get on a plane. The tricky thing about this is this came out on Friday. Turns out she was detained almost 3 weeks ago.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
this was the first time
Mm.
that we heard of it. In the statement that Russia finally released, it said she was detained at the airport sometime in January. Well, Friday was March 4th. I'm sorry, sometime in February. Well, Friday was March 4th. The last time she used her social media was, I believe it was like February 6th or something like that.
Really?
So no one had really heard from her, right? So my question is, Putin has been on TV talking about, if you guys put up a no-fly zone, we're going to see that as a violation. He's talking about
Mhm.
Americans, how all of these sanctions, he sees this as a violation. What do you think they're going to do now that they have a high-profile American? What do you think they're going to do with her? And what do you think we should do to try to get her out of this situation?
So I saw the video where she was actually in the airport and the whole detaining video, she kind of goes up and almost like we would go in our airports, security. He was going through airport security, looked like in Russia. And they pulled out the bag and then they found, I guess, what it's something. I couldn't tell what it was. I mean, it was all security video, so you can't really see all the details. But they pulled something out. So it looked like it was a legitimate stop and seizure. That's what it looked like from the video. And maybe it's been edited or something like that, but it looked like that. With that being said, I didn't realize it was 3 weeks ago or several weeks ago that she was
It
Mhm.
certainly she certainly wasn't detained when they released this on Friday. And it
wow.
says in the statement that she was detained. They were very ambiguous in February. They didn't give an exact date. But if you backtrack her social media and when she was in contact with people, it goes back to 3 weeks.
Wow. See, and so
Was
that
she
that
alone?
makes it even more scary. I mean, there's no doubt that they'll probably try to use her in some way, and that is
Mhm.
scary. I mean, it
That is
sounds like she
scary.
tried to get out when she was supposed to try to get out, and to get detained, and then now, I mean, I'd be really worried. I'd be really worried. I don't think they're going to do anything. They're not going to
For her
torture her
life.
and do something like that to her. I doubt that, but certainly treat her like a high profile hostage. I could see that.
Well, I don't think they'll necessarily torture her, but they could also, I mean, the crime, first of all,
Put her
hopefully
in
she
jail.
hasn't admitted to anything,
That's true.
but this is punishable by a minimum of
Yes.
10 years in jail.
Yes.
A
Yeah.
minimum of
Mhm.
10 years in
They could
jail.
put her in jail. Yeah. Robbie?
Robbie?
Yeah, well, like you, my concern is that this is a high-profile prisoner, and I can see them as using this as some kind of leverage over the U.S. That they could be planning on using her for a prisoner exchange or something useful down the road, policy-wise, or just getting the U.S. to withdraw action or support. I can see them trying to push that agenda. What makes this really scary is with everybody getting out of Dodge, there is a significantly reduced consular presence in Russia right now to even help her
Oh, that's
try to
right.
get out of this mess.
Most of the
That's right.
diplomats have left.
Diplomats are gone.
Most of the US
Exactly.
diplomats have left.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so
Hmm.
scary.
What
Like
are you
that's a
what are your thoughts,
nightmare.
Gianni?
Oh my God. Um, like you guys, I immediately thought, well, this will be a way for Russia to possibly like have something against us or well, we're already in a fight or we're ready against each other, but a way for us to react even more and possibly put us into war on our own territory. That's a stretch, but I'm just saying anything can happen. But with with R- um with Brittney Griner, I think that she'll get out. I just intuitively
Mm,
speaking, I don't feel like she would serve time. And I do feel like the US should have people go over there to get her. My question is, was she alone? Was she with her team? Why do we
No,
have
so
an
the team that
evacuator
she so
still?
she
right.
so she plays for a Russian team during the
Off
WNBA
season.
off season. And she has since
Oh,
2015. A lot
Oh,
of WNBA players play overseas because they make more money
More
there.
money.
You know, W
oh,
W like
ninety of yeah, yeah, 90 of the
she's one of the highest
144
paid.
rostered players in the WNBA play overseas during the offseason to make bank.
And
oh, wow.
she's one of the highest paid WNBA players, but she only makes like $220,000 a year. So she makes probably double, triple that in the small frame of time
Wow.
that she plays in Europe. Another thing to consider, though, that Mike Winter and I were
I
talking
just
about it briefly yesterday,
mhm,
that I find to be ironic is we're talking about Russia here, right?
mhm,
Russia
mhm,
that just came out of the Olympics, that wasn't allowed to have a delegation, a Russian delegation in the Olympics because they are dopers. So they
mhm,
had to compete under the ROC. And even under the ROC, they've been doping.
mhm.
And yet they pulling people out of airports for doping. Mm,
That's so
mm,
interesting.
For vape oil.
mm.
So there's some comments online that are really good. Mike Winter says, "Why are you so sure this fool Putin has lost his mind? Uh, we
Lost
have
it.
we have no idea what he would do. A black lesbian in a Russian jail. He is
Yeah.
definitely escalating." Jack and
Also,
Ro-
for the Sochi Olympics, they were kicking everybody that they considered to be LGBTQ out of Sochi. They were either arresting them or they were exiling
yeah. Um,
In Russia?
them. Hmm.
yep.
Yep.
Yeah, Jack and Robinson, I don't trust that they won't break her spirit and use this as an excuse to incarcerate her and to up the ante for the US. Ironic given
Yeah.
Russia's state-run doping program for its own elite athletes. Yeah, I went there, so it's basically what you were saying, Liz. Um, and then Mike Winter says, I said the same thing. They know drugs. This oil has basically been gay.
Mhm.
And again, I wouldn't like just because Russia said she had some hashish oil. We really believe that as if they are
Yeah.
liars. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't look like they planted anything. It did look like they found
That's what I was
something
thinking.
in the videos. It looked like they put her stuff through the things, through the X-rays, and then took it out, and then
I
they pulled her aside, and then they
They
looked
could have
through it,
planted
and then
it
they
somewhere
found
else.
it. So I mean,
or it could have or they could have been they could be lying about what it is
what it
and
is,
we
What
don't
it
know.
was. Yeah.
They could be lying
Yeah.
about what it is. And let me just say before
Exaggerating.
we end this, there are two Americans who have been arrested in Russia and who have been there for years. Two male Americans who have been there for years.
mm,
And so it's not out of the question that they would keep her there.
yeah.
Hmm.
I
Mm.
don't know what we will or what we can do for her at this point. But this breaks my heart. This really breaks my
Yeah.
heart.
And she's a great
It really
player
does.
too.
Yeah. It's scary. It's super scary.
All right, is this true,
Mm.
lies, or shenanigans?
I need a
Mm.
shameful. We need to get a
Oh, it's a lot of
shameful.
shenanigans today going on out
I think
there.
It's
it's
a
We
lot
need
of
to
we
get a
say
shenanigans
shenanigans
today.
A lot of
because it
A
really
shenanigans.
lot of
happened.
shenanigans.
Crazy.
Okay, it's middle.
I gotta get a shameful one, y'all. I gotta get a shameful one,
Shame.
y'all.
I said, look,
Yeah,
Shame.
couple of comments I got to throw in there. Gary Winter says, is Russia following the rules? We're looking at this with American eyes. Putin is seriously mentally challenged. See what Trump would be
shame.
like without laws of a democracy. And then Mike
Trump
Winter
who
said,
called him a genius. Trump called him a genius last week.
Yeah,
Call him
he
a
did.
genius.
Well, he probably is a genius to Trump. But hemp seed, Mike Winter says hemp seed oil feels just like Bengay, Antonio Neo. You should you should try it on your swinging
Okay.
shoulder. I may try some. All right, that's good stuff. That's good. All right, that is all for our topics
Truth,
today. These are some
lies,
great topics,
shenanigans.
guys. Good
This is
conversation as
crazy.
well.